think we all take lessons from this. I think everybody implementing Ripple at their own company is looking to hear some success stories from others. So we're going to go back to back to back with some success stories to talk about how some of our customers have implemented what Ripple's got and to change their customer experiences. So here we go. Here's some customer success stories.
Good afternoon. Can't see a thing. Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about our bank. We're 111 years old. About 2 years ago, we actually started on a transformation process to actually change a very conservative, very formal bank into something very different. And that transformation is ongoing. We're using technology as a lever, but we're really looking at how we reinvent and change our business model. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing with the RippleNet and how we're using that within our overall capability today. But first, I'd like to talk about is why we chose to work with Ripple. And I think that was one of the things that, it was very early on. I only joined the bank 2.5 years ago. Ripple was one of the new technologies I wanted to use. And with the CFO, we actually looked at, what are the right things that we can do? How can we change our business model? And we selected Ripple really because we saw the potential. We didn't understand it all. We really didn't have a clear picture of what we were going to do, but we could see the real potential, and we understood that the proposition was going to be in the payments arena. So what we did is we saw and we decided we could do something. We liked the technology. We liked the blockchain. Obviously, it's good advertising when you're going into new technologies. But it was really, from our point of view, how are we going to actually change and what we're going to do differently? And I'll come back to that a bit later on. We saw this as customer-centric. We were a product-led bank. We were very much in those early years before really just focusing on product. How do we sell product? How do we push product? In the transformation, we've moved to customer centricity. Why did we look at Ripple? Was because we saw that as a customer-centric capability. It was giving customers what they wanted, not what we as a bank wanted to push. So we saw the customer centricity and the capability around that. Just to show you how we're transforming, by the way, we've moved beyond customer centricity now. We're moving on what we call intent centricity. But that's a different topic, and I'm not here to really talk about that today. The other thing is that we found we needed to find a new way of working. With Ripple, we found a way and a partner that could actually work with us in a very different way. I don't know about your own organizations. Many banks, and I've worked in quite a few, you can tell, are really traditional, this is how we structure projects, this is how we do things. So we had to actually build a new culture in our organization, and it was really important that we could partner with someone who could actually understand that we're not going to do what we would classify as a traditional project. And so that new way of working was really, really important for us to be able to pick up pace. One of the things that we had in our past is we did everything in around 2 years. My classic example of the bank before was it took us 5 years to select a technology. It took us 5 years to implement, and the day we implemented it, I decided we were going to change it. So we had to move. We had to go to, quarter-by-quarter deliveries. We had to move faster because our business was changing so dramatically. And that was really important to get a partner that can actually... I don't know how many of you have this problem, but I certainly do. It's something, even with the very, very big tech players. They come along and say, we're agile. Okay, let's get a contract. Oh, well, that'll take us 6 months. They really are not agile. There's very few organizations that can adapt very, very quickly. And we do play with all of the big partners. So again, comes back to how quickly you can get things moving. A contract and getting the contracts and paperwork in place is usually one of the longest parts of a whole project. So doing those small things quickly means you've really reduced your overall timescale. We needed to experiment. As I say, we said, this is great. It's blockchain, so it's going to look really good in the, that we're working on blockchain. 2 is it's brand new technology, so we're really good. We understand it's in payments, and we wanted to look at it from an international payment point of view. But how, we didn't know. We really did not know. And I'll come back more to this when I'm talking about our journey. So it was really important when you meet and working with a company, you can't turn around and say, I want you exactly to do this. We need someone who we could iterate, we could experiment. And this is something that we've found so far with our partnership with Ripple, is this level of experimentation, which is going on still today. And we've done a lot more work in the last 2 days with them in extending where we're going in our next part of our journey. Aggressive ambition. I think that I'm not going to talk for Ripple. I think Brad can talk a lot more about it than I can, but we have got an aggressive ambition. We want to do things differently. We want to really change. We don't see a bank being relevant to its customers in the next 5 to 8 years. In fact, my personal view, not the bank, but my personal view is it's going to be very hard for banks to exist in 5 to 8 years. There'll be a product behind some other brand. And so what we have been doing and working within our management team is we're looking at how we're going to make ourselves relevant. And that means we've got to be aggressive. You know, really got to push the envelopes. It's what is possible and then define the next step beyond. So we needed a company that can work with us in that kind of model that we can grow aggressively with. And the other thing is really, if this will work, that's fine, is to come to the point where we had a vision. We have a shared vision of what we want to do. Coming back to experimentation, we've evolved that whole vision. I've even evolved it more with the team. I think my colleague here, we've been actually evolving where we want to take this vision to next. You know, so we've been developing as a management team what that vision is and how important it is so that we can shape up this aggressive expansion. Our journey is fairly simplistic. What we're doing, we are doing international remittance. We're doing that with one corridor today. We actually started in the July last year, and basically it's been very successful. We've got a partnership with SBI. We're very grateful. It's been something that we could implement relatively quickly, so that we can actually learn with our partner and with the Ripple organization how we can do that. But let me come back to the journey of where we are for this first part. We had to understand the technology, of course. You can't implement technology without understanding the basic principles of what you're doing. That, to me, was a very small part of the overall journey and a very small part of the activity. The harder part was, oh, we don't have a back button. Sorry, I pressed it the wrong one. So it will sort itself out. I'll come back to the journey. We had to work out our business. Oh, it's done it. We had to work out our business model. Now, that was the hard part, because you've got new technology. Now, it's always very, very simple to turn around and say, we're going to take that technology and we're going to take these old processes and put them on there. And the team had to really think through how they're going to change. So what they're going to do differently and how they're going to actually execute the processes. Doing payments, as everyone knows, is easy when everything goes right. It's the reality is when things go wrong. The hard part is how do you actually reinvent that capability. So the team had to sit down, and that took a huge amount of time in comparison to the technology implementation. That was about 6 months. Really thinking through how they were going to do it, how we were going to operate. Going through, we had it reviewed at senior management level, going back and redesigning it. Then we decided, right, now we have to prove the capability, but it's brand new technology. There is going to be the reluctance within the regulator for us to do something. So what we needed to do was say, okay, let's sit down and work with the regulator so that we could prove that this is a valid operation and it can be executed reliably, we can keep our customers happy, and it delivers against the promises that we're making. So the team set up what we call a sandbox with the central bank, our regulator. And we entered that in the July when we went live. And basically, we are still running with within the sandbox. Not that we have any problem, it's just that the central bank haven't worked the exit criteria out yet. But the fine is that we're actually now expanding the whole operation. So we're bringing on three more organizations into that corridor as we speak within this quarter. And we'll look at our expansion later. we are now at a point where we're getting to be a sustainable business. It's actually starting to show promise. It's starting to show real value to us as an organization. And so now we've got to start to think, okay, this is where our journey, and this is where our journey really began. So now I'm really going to come to the next part, which is what we're doing. And again, we're working very heavily with Ripple. It's a statement of the obvious, you know, movement of payments, simplify the movement of payments. It's a statement of the obvious, but we've got to have the how. How are we going to make that happen? And so that's the challenge that we thought of towards, you know, the end of last year, early part of this year. How are we going to actually make this more seamless? How are we going to make it easier? Using the technology, using the business capability. So what we've worked on with the support of Ripple, and it has been, you know, very much a team working that we've gone through, is we've worked out that we want to actually change the way we operate. So we're now looking at setting up a regional hub. We've got corridor to Japan. We will build, and we've talked to some partners today and yesterday about building more corridors. So the principle of the corridor is always there, and that's paramount. What we're also doing, because we have our own network within the region, we're looking at how we actually start to build that out and start to be able to offer payment capabilities, not into just Thailand, not remittances just into Thailand, not just remittance as well, it will go beyond that. But the point is we're going to offer this across the whole region. So we're going to build a hub. We're looking to partner with other organizations so that we can evolve and be able to create a whole new ecosystem around the technologies that we've actually built. And it comes back to my first statement, you know, this evolving vision, the willingness to experiment. We did not have this in our mind when we actually started in December 16. It was the furthest thing. All we wanted to do was to make the international payments a lot easier for us. If we could do that, the other thing is, and personally, I wanted to play with blockchain. So those were the things, those were the drivers. But with the ability to be able to experiment, to be able to understand all of that, then we've been able to find different ways of doing things. And so now we're going to be looking and pushing to this regional hub capability. We'll gladly have any conversations. We're looking at corridors so that we can build that out. We want to be aggressive. We see that this is something that we can achieve and something that will add value to our overall business model, but make us a very different business as well. So we're evolving and expanding all the time. So really, that's our journey. That's how we've actually handled our growth with Ripple. I'd like to thank the Ripple team because they've got a very good team. We've got a very good support team working around with us. We've actually built a partnership. It's not you know, supplier buyer kind of relationship. It is actually building something out which is going to create something new. And I think that that's one of the key differentiators that I think of when I look at Ripple is, and the teams that we're working with, is what is the problem we're going to solve? How are we going to get there? And that shared capability is something that is going to help us move even further beyond the regional payment hub that we're moving on today. So I'd like to say thank you a little before my time, but unless there's any questions, and if there is, I'll more than likely be hanging around and you can ask me anything you want later. Thank you.